Hello, welcome to TubeGameVideo. God of War Ragnarok is coming out on November 9th. So, let's see some reviews about this game with me. If you find this video good, please subscribe and like this video to support me. Giant flying eyeballs with your bare hands in the space of about 90 seconds. The concept informs you everything you will have to know about God of War Ragnarok. You could go from hearing the captivating tales of Norse mythology as told by the most effective mates when you drift gently past dense river banks of lush jungle and around placid lakes between snow-given mountains to squishing giant traveling on airlines eyeballs along with your bare biceps. The almighty of War Ragnarok builds right into a meaningful evolution for that series, expanding the scope of gameplay both stealthily and overloaded while delivering tense and curvy story that bends legend around its characters in exciting and endlessly interesting ways. Ragnarok occurs across all 9 realms of Norse cosmology as Odin, California King and All-Father of the Æsir gods, moves textual heaven and earth to prevent the doomsday that is prophesied to bring his destruction. Kratos and Atreus learned their unwitting part in the prophecy at the finish of the game, and God of War Ragnarok bargains with the ramifications with this new knowledge. It is a really direct sequel and, maybe due to a lot of distance and watching beautiful laptop or computer port footage among, starting Ragnarok seemed the prior game. In the Sony first-party pantheon, Ragnarok feels more like the jump between Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3 than the greater recent example of The Last of Us Parts 1 and 2. Given the expansion time between the rebooted God of War Ragnarok, this makes sense. It looks and feels great, with detailed environments and distant landscapes in every realm, but there aren't any huge technical or graphical feats that leap off the screen immediately. And that could make for a disappointing first impression if you're expecting something that's going to make your PS5 hull like a jet engine, like it does your PS4. That's not to say that God of War Ragnarok is a complete retread, or does nothing to take things forward. What's familiar swells over the course of the game, whether it's combat styles, companion abilities, traversal or puzzle solving, to the point where you realize later on in the whole experience just how much is different and new. The first few hours, then, feel quite close to what you've played already, and if Sony Santa Monica tried to introduce a lot of this more quickly, just for the sake of difference, it might have felt overwhelming or disparate, so ultimately it's the right choice for the game as a whole. Even if, sometimes, you're encouraging it all to speed up a bit. You've got a lot of time to explore the mechanical nuances once they start to show up, though. Whether console showpiece spectacle action genre used to be a linear 6-hour firework, God of War Ragnarok is as chunky as Kratos' own bicep, taking me just over 40 hours to complete the main story on the regular difficulty. By the end of a primary story office, you more often than not if you to break off directly into an seizable exploration area full of environmental puzzles, mini-bosses and fetch quests. By the end of a primary story office, you more often than not if you to break off directly into an seizable exploration area full of environmental puzzles, mini-bosses and fetch quests. Not just pertaining to the modern world and character-building adventures, the main favors in each one area are generally good. Although because adequate course a lot from the best stuff and updates, making them pretty if you need to make smooth improvement in the next chapter. They are not disposable either. More actions appear constantly as the community state changes throughout the key element quest and even after the credits roll. The persistent divergence can be distracting, both for the exploration areas and around the key path. There's something hidden around nearly every corner, and sniffing it out can take you out of the moment a bit. If you're a magpie, like me, you'll be thinking more about the collectible you need to smash in the corner while a cutscene's playing than what's actually going on. Those with short attention spans, be warned. But if you know that you can't really miss anything and you can always go back and get things that you do miss, which you know now, because I'm telling you, hopefully most people can push through that completionist itch. I wrote in my early impressions preview that the beginning of God of War Ragnarok's story had me a little worried because it laid on the emotional moves thicker than the hide of the world snake. Jormungand. Right from pressing new game, it's all heavy hearts, long sighs, and somber silences that threaten to tip into becoming maudlin, and at this point, that feels like a Sony studio party trick. However, character motivations quickly re-establish themselves to make everything feel more earned, and from there, Ragnarok never loses its great moments. An early standoff between the game's main players is crackling with intense atmosphere and menace, and the unexpected and intricate characterizations of many of Ragnarok's antagonists are almost as revolutionary as the renewed depth to Kratos' character in the 2018 God of War. As the sport progresses for the climax, today come even more often. From the summation in the last Full Realm arc until the blockbuster finale, it's gigantic, cataclysmic set-piece following set to grip you because aggressively and wrathfully as the characters battling on screen. Not the particular engrossing, nevertheless the quieter parts. The film draws on themes of responsibility, reduction and uncertainty within the changing phases of life. If the story plot is approximately we were young, fatherhood, or maybe death, it's reflective and knowingly reflecting into it always creates you care. The only quibble I have with all of this is where characters have a tendency to basically state the insinuations of a scene, saying the quiet part out loud when it was already well earned and clear from the context and performances. I wouldn't say that it undercuts anything too important, because when the real emotional moments touch down they land like a swan on water, but it does feel like there was some undue worry that people wouldn't get it. This is particularly felt at the end of the main favors in each area, which often finish with a conversation which comes off a bit like a plenary at the end of a school lesson or the coda at the end of a sitcom. So what did we all learn today? But that's all overshadowed by the action. Anyway, once you get used to the touch-tight camera angle, which can make it feel like you're getting brained by things outside of your peripheral vision before you master the audio and visual cues, the arsenal of weapons, combos, and abilities at your disposal feels incredibly flexible, with supplementary items to modify almost every option available to you. A good deal of information is communicated by refined items that finding your personal style inside the skill set is instinctive, without the jarring ceases and slowdowns that give knuckle-cracking impact to every hit and possess you throwing yourself into each shot. You get the biggest sense of this in the many, passionately fierce boss fights that punctuate the game. They do a great job of incorporating unique mechanics without coming off as cheap or overly simple. And, really, these boss fights are emblematic of what makes God of War Ragnarok great. They're hugely successful meldings of an involving story and brutal action that not only produce an eye-popping, absorbing spectacle, but an impassioned investment in the outcome as well. Thank you for watching the video. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.